1 week season.
1 week season, fam, La Familia. Welcome back. Hope everybody had a terrific Christmas and New Year's. Of course, we missed you week 17. A little scheduling snafu on my end there. Weren't able to get there, but we are here for week 18. FanDuel Labs week 18. My name is Mike Johnson, M Johnson 86, your host. I will be joined shortly here with my partner in crime, Mr. Maximus, to break down the week 18 slate. We have 14 games on the FanDuel main slate. There's 2 Saturday games, and then FanDuel has graced us with a full day of football, including the Sunday night Bills Dolphins game in their main slate. That's a little bit different aspect than DraftKings, which we will certainly touch on. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in my colleague here, Mr. Maximus. How are we doing today?
Hello, everyone. Doing good.
You have a good New Year?
Yeah, very busy with the other business I do. We were talking earlier throughout the week. Congrats, first and foremost, on your best ball.
Oh yeah, I wore the Drafters shirt. They sent a shirt to everybody that maxed out their main best ball contest back in September. Took 7th in the Drafters Drafters Millions, I think it was called, their main best ball tournament, $20 entry. Took 7th place for $30,000. Overall did well, had a lot of I think it was 49 of my 150 lineups in that tournament cashed. There was some overlay in it. There was a lot of, drafters. They do a great job with customer service. They had a lot of good bonuses throughout the season. So, there was a lot of value in playing it. And then, I had that lineup that ran pretty well for most of the season. Had Lamar Jackson. I think I was the only one in like the top 50 that had Lamar Jackson. So his Sunday was clutch for me. Had kind of a bad run out with my running backs. David Montgomery I had, and he did fine. But then my other top 2 running backs this season were Raheem Mostert and Alvin Kamara. So Raheem being ruled out, that hurt me, and then it hurt me even more because there was a lot of teams near the top that had Achane. So him getting all the work, a couple teams passed me. And then Kamara leaving at halftime. Ended up taking Zach Charbonnet's score. He scored like 9 points. If I had gotten like a 15-point score, which I think if Kamara and Raheem had both played a full game, one of them would have got 15. That would have moved me up at least one spot. But, finishing 7th out of like 90,000 entries over a 17-week tournament, I obviously had a lot of things break my way. So hard to complain about the 1 or 2, things that don't.
It's great. I have not done best ball. I'm more of just straight up DFS player, but with so much variance, that's just inherently going to happen throughout the course of the season. The underlying process at the beginning or prior has to be sound, and so it's definitely a testament to the content clearly in the material that OWS was pumping out for the best ball stuff prior to the season starting. So tip of the hat for that.
Yeah, I think so. Hilo and I do our Best Ball Plus product. He focuses pretty much entirely on underdog. And then my focus is entirely on drafters and DraftKings. The drafters, the season-long format, I really like just because, if you're on DFS Twitter, I'm sure you've seen, anybody that's pays attention to DFS on social media has probably seen a lot of the best ball discourse as well. And that's the thing with like DraftKings and underdog is you could have like this awesome team for 14 weeks and you win your league. And then you go to like your playoff pod and like one down week and it's like, boom, you're out min cash. So it's kind of nice that the season long format, like when you do build that like super team. Just one down week isn't going to like torch it. So, yeah, the format is good. And I think, I think best ball is something that I would recommend. I talked about this in one of my courses, best ball, and like just getting in, even if it's just one or two dynasty leagues, even if it's like a little bit lower entry fee, just like a $20 entry fee or something, would be really valuable for most people, just because it kind of keeps you in tune with more of the player pool. You just naturally you learn more about the players. You're more locked in on the NFL for more of the year, for more of that off season. So I think I think that is one of the things that has been an advantage and an edge that I've had, is just that I've, for the last few years, been locked in. My biggest win, ironic, we're on week 18 here. So my biggest win of my life was in week 17, when it was the 2020 season. So it was actually January of 2021. That it was the last week of that season before they added the 18th week. A lot of so obviously a lot of similarities in the sorting through the chaos a little bit of which teams are playing for a lot, which young players might get some extended run, which players teams might feature. So yeah, it's interesting. That's a good segue into our week 18 discussion here, because a lot going on, a lot of moving parts this week. Yeah, go.
I said the biggest separator clearly is the mammoth Sunday night game that we get on FanDuel that you don't get on DraftKings. Maybe that could be a blessing and a curse in some ways with certainty, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where we can find as much certainty as can be had on a week 18 slate, and maybe see some other spots where we can get an edge.
So what are you playing your normal tournament? I noticed it's a little smaller this week.
Yeah, I'm back to it. I actually did not play it last week. It's been really strange that they have not done this in past years, where it seems like every other week they go from a good setup to a bad setup. Last week it went back. We weren't here last week. Last week it went back to the more entries, less of a percentile of the field, and less of a payout at the top. This week it is back to less entries, more of a percentage, 25%, and then that first place is back to its ceiling, if you will. So yeah, I definitely plan to do that. I may even do some MME, kind of like a end of the regular season blowout. Definitely consider it from the aspect of having fun with it, but then also doing it as intelligently as possible, and in that format, giving yourself the best chance to have some positive results. So.
Right. Yeah, there's yeah, I mean, FanDuel, I think that a lot of it for them, they don't have quite as many contest offerings as DraftKings. And I think a lot of it for them, with like your contest that you're in and some others, it probably fluctuates based on some of the other contests they offer. Like if they have one of their bigger contests, or special contests, like I think last week they had a bigger one that was at like a similar price point, or maybe this week they do. The bomb is $77 instead of $55. So honestly, sometimes I don't know what goes into it, but it's kind of random from them. But it sounds like it's a pretty good structure this week. 350 people, and 4,000 for first. So can potentially have a nice little way to ring in the new year. Pull up. All right. So here we go. Again, as we were talking about, it's 20K Sunday NFL touchdown, $65 entry. It's a 5 max tournament, $4,000 to first place. Pays just a little over 20% of the field. So yeah, we will go ahead and start building. We're going to build a little bit different this week, kind going to kind of build from scratch and see where it takes us with so many variables and things at play. We'll start with you kind of give me where your starting point for your roster is, and we can kind of break things down from there. So what do you got for me?
Great. Yeah, it sounds good this way. Okay. Well, in my opinion, you got to go Josh Allen. He has everything to play for. I don't see any scenario other than an injury early that's like catastrophic where this guy doesn't produce, a tournament-worthy score. He is the whole team with Buffalo. I believe it's actually win or don't even make the playoffs too. So it's either they win the AFC East or they're going home. So Josh Allen would be my easy starting point. I thought about Dak. The only thing I didn't like, I don't like hearing, I don't know what the latest is with the Sirianni talk about they may rest their players for the playoffs. If that's the case, you may have Dallas playing one half of football, dominating, and then maybe they're easing off in the second half. But the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, it's full speed ahead, I believe. 4 quarters of football. It's whoever wins is in the position they need to be in for the playoffs. So I do have Josh Allen. The initial build I was playing around because I'm not really trusting the receiver core lately. Obviously, there's been a lot of struggles with Diggs involved. So I went with Dalton Kincaid. With Josh Allen's the kind of quarterback you don't necessarily need to double stack. FanDuel-wise, he's got the rushing ability. He is kind of the whole team, in my opinion. So Dalton Kincaid at tight end. He's definitely, they use him as a wide receiver, middle of the field, pretty good price at 5,700. I think having at least one person hitched to the Josh Allen trailer makes sense. And then the easy bring back is Tyreek Hill. Got to be Tyreek. He's their whole offense. I mean, you have one guy, you could argue Josh Allen is the entire offense for the Bills and Tyreek Hill is the entire offense for the Dolphins. You're getting like an entire focus of an offense on one player. And then I have the Kincaid. So there's the skinny or one player stack with the bring back to give attention, I believe, rightfully that needs to be given to this game. And then, I guess I'll start it there. Oh, I guess we could throw one more in. This is the ultimate pay up on defense, but if I'm going to say that Josh Allen is going to outperform every other quarterback on the slate, potentially, I feel the Cowboys defense against a Washington Commanders team that is, clearly not good. In the game, Dallas knows that, they can't screw up to get that number 2 seed. I think the Cowboys I don't think I've heard who the starting quarterback for the Commanders is yet, but if it's Howell,
It is.
Okay, ears back, wheels up. And that's that pay up that you can do on FanDuel even more so where, you can kind of get there. And then, I guess that's 4 of the 9. That's about as certainty as I think you can get on the face of it. And then, I'll throw it back to you to where some different game environments or situations that you feel based on the price and the game setup itself, maybe we can continue to fill in the team here.
Yeah. So obviously, like you said, this game is, I believe it's the highest total implied game total of the week, with the over under being, I think, 49.5 at the moment.
I think it's up to
50. Possibly. I mean, every book's different, but it's around 50. But either way, it's the highest of the week, and it's on the slate, which is not on DraftKings. I mean, as you said, like there's no question, like both these teams, they're playing. Like there's other spots where you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but both these teams are going to play. I believe Josh Allen had, if it wasn't his best game of the year,
That's right.
second best game of the year. 36.5 FanDuel points against Miami in week 4. Only other game where he did better than that this year. Actually, the only other game he was over 30 points was the Eagles game. So, yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, this Dolphins defense without Bradley Chubb, without Jaden Phillips, looks like Xavier Howard is out. He gave it to him once already, and now they are a little more beat up. Yeah, it'll be an interesting spot. Yeah, I think that the other thing that makes this more viable this week, in my opinion, is like in a regular week, like say you have 10 or 11 games, or even if it's like a regular 13 games, but like everybody is playing normally, you don't have as many different options for how you spend that remaining salary. So like you look at these, you have 5 roster spots left, $6,000 left per player. But because there's so many situations, like the Niners are resting their guys, the Rams are resting their guys. You have, other spots will come up. The Browns are resting their guys. Other spots are going to come up as the week goes on. That there's just a lot of different ways that you can go. Whereas, like on a normal week, if you started with this core, the amount of salary that you've allocated, there would only be like a couple viable running backs. So then you get into a spot where most of your roster is going to look exactly the same as everybody else. But this week, when you're probably going to have 5 or 6 sub 6K running backs that are like completely viable, you're not in that situation necessarily. So, yeah, from that aspect, I think it makes a lot of sense. Where does your mind go next? Like, what is the next player or spot that you're thinking of to add to this roster?
Good question. If you could actually scroll it down to the games again. Yeah. So I'm thinking the other spots where we can, without a shadow of a doubt, you got teams that are going to play and they have a lot on the line. The Green Bay Packers would be a team at home. They're vying for, a playoff spot against Chicago, who, Justin Fields and company, they may want to play spoiler in that game. They may be going, that could be an all-out game, in my opinion, where both teams are playing the whole way through and Chicago's trying to play spoiler and Green Bay knows what they have to do to, they have to win. And then, of course, we have the wide receiver core for Green Bay that we're going to have to get more news on during the week on who's playing and who's not. Looks like Jaden Reed and Watson could be goes now. So I would say Green Bay would be a team I would look to try to fill in. Seattle is another team that definitely has a purpose to play for, motivation. And then Tampa. Obviously if they win the South. Don't know what their scenario is if they lose, if they still have a chance to even be in the playoffs. But I know it's basically win and they're in. I think, and then
if they lose, they're basically out.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I think that there's like a 1%, basically like everybody else would have to lose. Like they would need, I think they would have a chance to be in. If they lost, they would need the Falcons to beat the Saints, and then they would need the Cardinals to beat the Seahawks and the Bears to beat the Packers. I believe like all those things would have to happen. And even then, I'm not sure if they would get in because it would come down to like a bunch of tiebreakers with like strength of schedule and stuff. So basically, yeah, they've got the Bucs got to beat the Panthers to get in.
So why don't we see if we can find value or based on that 6,000 player left over with the 5 spots. I'd say my 3 spots on the face of it would be Green Bay, Seattle, and Tampa. Let's see if we can get some activity between those 3. I mean, Arizona probably plays still. The to be spoiler. Tampa Bay, I would think Rachaad White, he may be a little, we'd have to get value elsewhere. Rachaad White would be a strong play. I feel he is, it's easier to run against Carolina than throw against them. And he's also a pass catching running back. And he also doesn't split the backfield, as we've talked about throughout the year. He may be a spot I would go to. I think he's 7,700 though. So maybe in this build, he could be a little on the higher side, but yeah, definitely Green Bay, Seattle, players like Najigba for Seattle or Green Bay, their receiver core, potentially, or even Aaron Jones. I know Aaron Jones went nuclear against Chicago in week 1 because Chicago, as good as they are against the run, they are susceptible to pass catching running backs. And I think that's where Aaron Jones did most of his damage. I think he's 6,800 this week. If you look at his box score for week 1, even though it was like a lifetime ago, he did most of his damage in the passing game, not in the rushing game against Chicago. So those are a couple of my thoughts with other teams to maybe go to fill this out.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm gonna flip it a little bit on you here.
Really, feel free.
So you started out with this spot with Buffalo, Miami. Agree with the idea of like, okay, we're going to go Cowboys defense. Maybe, they get a pick 6 early and the offense, they get up 21-3 and the Eagles pull their guys, right? And so Dallas just kind of coasts, and so that leverage play off of it makes sense. But so you're leaning into this certainty in your first spots. So like where I would go from here is, okay, we've got to save some money. And where are, so like a quick story. So that tournament that I talked about that I won 3 years ago, had Jerry Jeudy on it. It was the last game of his rookie season. He had kind of been up and down, hadn't done anything really special, but they kind of featured him. Laviska Shenault with the Jaguars. He was the 40th overall pick in the draft. Again, sporadic usage throughout the season, but they kind of, they went to him. They featured him. He was kind of overlooked that week, even though I kind of expected him to have a good week. But then the bigger ones were like, so there was Chargers played the Chiefs, and Darwin Thompson. I don't know if you remember him. But so he was a younger guy. Chiefs were all locked up. They played him. And he was like, this was on DraftKings. He was like $4,400 and was like 4% owned. And he played like every snap and scored like 25 points for me. And then Donald Parham, which this was his first year in the league. And he's just this big freak tight end, playing with rookie Justin Herbert. And he scored a touchdown at like min price. So, those are the types of spots. I think you've got your certainty here. So what I'm going to do is let's try to lean into like, maybe there's some uncertainty. So I'm going to go to this Cleveland-Cincy game, and a guy who actually was on my drafters team we talked about before, Chase Brown. So Chase Brown for the Bengals, he's been more involved recently. He had a couple of nice games. A few weeks back, he broke like a 50-yard touchdown. But anyways, since week 13, the last 5 weeks, he's been more involved, double-digit snaps every game. The Bengals, obviously their main running back, Joe Mixon, has kind of been their guy all season, but they've been eliminated from the playoffs now. Mixon's time, I don't know if you remember, there was a big contract thing with him in the offseason. But like his time in Cincinnati is basically done. So like Chase Brown's a guy that I think like he's very explosive, and everyone talks about which offensive players will play. But it's also very relevant that some of these defenses, like how they stack up and what their stats may be on the surface, are going to be more or less irrelevant when you change the players that are on the field. So like the Browns are locked into the 5th seed. They've dealt with a ton of injuries already. I know they're resting they're starting Jeff Driscoll instead of Flacco. I would think Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore sit, but also like they're probably going to sit or severely limit snaps of like many of their key defensive players. So you look at a guy like Chase Brown, and it's like, well, all of a sudden he could have like a 65, 75% snap share as an explosive player against like a preseason defense. So, that's one guy. There's a couple other guys in that kind of similar mold at running back. The Broncos, Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yes, I was looking at Jaleel actually. He's really done the eye test throughout the year for me. He looks better than Javonte to me when he gets.
And he actually started last week. He got the first run. Like Javonte didn't even get into the second series. And then in a very similar spot, actually, ironically, also on that drafters team was Tyjae Spears facing the Jaguars. Now, those two, they are playing teams who Jacksonville needs to win to get in. If they win their division. They get in, and they have a pretty good run defense. Las Vegas, their defense has been much better. Second half of the season, they are playing. Their coach is trying to prove he deserves the job. So those are a little bit tougher spots, I think, than what Chase Brown will see. But I think, you could go with kind of either of those guys. So I'll let you choose McLaughlin or Spears.
Well, I have an initial practice build, and Jaleel was on it, so it's funny.
All right, we'll go with him.
So yeah, I'm fine with Jaleel. Maybe in the flex spot because he's 425, but unless you want to save that for a receiver for upside.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to go next. So you've got I
love the Jaleel call for sure.
Yeah, and the reason with Spears, the reason I brought him up, it's like the same situation as Chase Brown, where Derrick Henry, this is going to be his last game in Tennessee. Spears is a rookie that, they might want to see, get some tape on him with a full workload. What does it look like? Do we need to draft another back? What do we need to do in free agency? So that would be where Spears would come in. Again, it's a little bit, there's more uncertainty in these spots, but I think I think if you start your roster with the Allen, Hill, Kincaid, there's some other running backs. I know like Jordan Mason for the 49ers is only 5,500 or 5,700. He's probably right now he's projecting as one of the higher owned backs. Pierre Strong for the Browns, also projecting very high. He's at $4,600 salary on FanDuel. So that kind of strengthens the Chase Brown love that I've got, is that he's kind of a direct leverage off of Pierre Strong, who's going to be very popular. But I think that you're forced to pay down at running back once you have that initial with Josh Allen and Tyreek Hill and the top price defense. So I think finding backs who are similar priced, because they have to be, with a little bit less certainty, I think there's a ton of value in that, for this type of build. So then that leaves us with 2 receiver spots and a flex. So let's go, I got an idea here. Let's go ahead with, you talked about Aaron Jones. I like that call. Because here's the thing. It's not just as simple as I think the aspect of this last week of the regular season that people miss out on is it's not just this team's resting their guys. This team is playing, but I think there's spots like this where you look at Aaron Jones and we know he has this massive ceiling, right? He's had over his course of his career some huge games. And we know the Packers, they need to win to get in. But also, why is Aaron Jones priced where he's priced? A big part of that is they manage his reps, right, throughout the season. Like, you know, when he first came back, that Bucks game, he was only 6,200, but like they gave him like 8 touches on the first drive, I think. And then he only got like 5 the rest of the game because the coaches were like, oh, shoot, like we got to take it easy on him. You know, AJ Dillon broke his thumb a couple weeks ago. Now he got a stinger on Sunday night. So from the aspect of like Aaron Jones is priced where he is because he's never a guy who gets 25 to 30 touches. And if he's ever going to get it, this would be the spot, right? So I think, I know you brought up the Packers as one of those like higher certainty spots you might want to attack. What do you think about that, adding him to this build?
Well, to piggyback even deeper to that statement, if you look at Aaron Jones the last 2 weeks, saving him for the end of the year, you would be right. 20 and 21 rushing attempts over per week the last 2 weeks, and he's never usually getting that kind of volume from LaFleur. So that could be the situation where they are saving him for the, you know, to kind of that final push to get in the postseason and, you know, see if they can make some noise once they're there. So yeah, I love the Aaron Jones call. Again, the problem with him usually is, you know, you'd like him to get more touches as a running back than he usually does. But in this case, must-win situation. You see it trending, how they've been using him now that he's healthier down the stretch. And so, yeah, no, I'm fine with him there in that spot.
Nice. And then the last 2 spots that I'm going to go with are, I'm going to throw Jordan Addison in there. So the Vikings, they play the Lions, who the Lions are basically locked into the 3 seed. They could become the 2 seed if they have to win, and then they would need both Dallas and Philadelphia to lose. Then they could be the 2 seed. But like that feels like a pipe dream kind of. And again, I think that there is, you know, you've also got Addison, who the Vikings are going back to Nick Mullins, who they went back to in the middle of last week's game. But Addison, you know, he had that monster game against the Bengals. Then he had 2 really, really down games. But similar to, I talked about Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault in my big win 3 years ago. You know, Addison's this rookie who, you know, you've got this really talented player and this quarterback who obviously trusts him. And, you know, the Lions defense has struggled anyways. You know, I think this could be kind of like a preseason game for their defense where you saw what CeeDee Lamb did to him, obviously, last week. You know, and if they could go play calling wise, they could go more vanilla, not wanting to show too much on film a week before, you know, their first playoff game. So yeah, you know, he's a guy I really like this week. And then I'll round it out with Drake London, who is $6,200 facing the Saints. 10 targets last week. Again, just a former top 10 pick, extremely talented. The matchup, I mean, it's not great, but it's not awful. And, you know, they need to win, right? You know, Arthur Smith is coaching for his job. They need to win and hope the Bucs lose. So yeah, that's, you know, none of those spots are necessarily like lockdown hammer spots, but I think that they are all, you know, I think it fits with, you know, how you started the roster. So what are your thoughts there?
Is it confirmed that Nick Mullins is starting? I didn't see that. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I like that more than I know. The last I had read that, I guess they weren't sure. Okay. Yep. It's showing that. Yeah. I mean, and because Justin Jefferson obviously wouldn't fit price-wise on this team. I think, you know, he probably wants to finish the year strong, everything. But yeah, Addison's been pretty solid most of the year. You can't really run on the Lions. You know, passing is the approach to go. And I guess technically Minnesota is remotely not eliminated. So they're probably going to want to end the season on a good note. The Falcons, to me, I'm kind of like, it works price wise. Obviously, is there any salary left over? Let's see what.
There is
Oh,
$200.
there is. Yeah, I'm so over it. The Falcons and Saints, they're just, for me, they've just been teams that are just really hard to figure out. They're so spread. Well, the Saints especially very spread out, and who's going to be the guy that's going to hit for a tournament-worthy score each week. Those teams befuddle me, the Falcons and the Saints, or they have most of the year. Maybe it's a reflection of the coaching staff's trying to figure it out. But, yeah, it's definitely not – I could definitely see. I mean, he is wide receiver 1. It's a good price. It's a game they'll definitely be playing to win. So it makes sense. I'm curious, with the 200 left over, who else do we have that may be comparable?
Well, I have two things. So if you're at receiver, you got Gabe Davis, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, basically are the ones in the same spot. That's what stands out to me about it is, again, this is week 18. So like we are 60 minutes of football away from 2024 season, basically. And when I look at guys like Jordan Addison, Drake London, these are guys that like I think will spend most of next year and the majority of their careers priced in like the 7K plus range on FanDuel. So like I think there's a lot of value there just in being early. I think that sometimes for me, if there's not like this like standout reason not to play a guy who's super talented, like it's just like a leap of faith. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Drake London scores 2 touchdowns. He has multiple games this year where he had so they had this Bucks game, caught 10 passes for 172 yards. He had this Washington game, 9 passes for 125 yards. Obviously, he's only got 2 touchdowns on the season. But for me, like from a mathematical standpoint and a player of his talent, a lot of people look at that as like, oh, he doesn't score any touchdowns. But I look at a player like that and I think this guy is too good. Like eventually that is going to rectify itself. There's going to be a spot where he gets in the end zone. And, if he was going to, that would make sense for it to be here. Now, if you don't want to play him, here's my other thought on this is, who is a receiver? Is there a receiver up in like the upper 6s to 7K range that you like?
That's probably the problem. Maybe Metcalf. Definitely, that'd be it probably, because we know the Rams aren't playing their guys. A lot of uncertainty with the Saints.
So you can go there. You could go Metcalf, and if you're not comfortable with London, and then you can go to one of these other defenses. You could go with the Vikings. Like if they sit Goff, you've got
even the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders. You're against McLaughlin there, but like,
oh yeah, you could do that.
You could switch that to Spears.
Yeah,
if you
could
go
be
with
another team.
You could go with the Titans if Lawrence sits. For that matter, you could play the Chargers defense. Like the Chiefs are sitting their guys. Like you're getting to play against Blaine Gabbert. That's kind of what I mean is like, there's spots where like what it looks like on the surface. Like the Chargers are priced $3,300 because they're playing at home, or they've been a bad defense. It's given up some big games, and they're playing against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, except for they're not, because those guys aren't going to play. So, that's an interesting spot. If you talked about Sirianni, like Brian Dable's still playing. Like, what if Sirianni decides to sit guys?
Oh yeah,
you know, you
I
could,
like the Giants defense this weekend.
So
Yeah.
you know that's another way you could go about it. Like if you know, obviously defense is the easiest spot to like switch up. But you know those are, you know, if you didn't want to go with the London call, I think that would be the other way the other direction I would go with it.
Well, what I do like in listening about the Addison London takes is your mentality behind it. You're bringing into existence their future now. And that's like kind of an interesting mindset in hearing that perspective on it. So I do like it from that perspective of they're going to be priced more next year, kind of bringing into existence, you know, the mentality of, you know, they're a value right now, and, you know, they maybe will finish off the year strong. So I like it from that perspective, the London and Addison. Well, Addison I like period, but the London take. But yeah, that's in building multiple teams, guys, these are different directions to kind of switch it up, but maybe keep the core pieces and switch up the other spots if building, which I will be, multiple teams. So yeah.
And I think the key is like finding a balance, like with most things, like just balancing that, like the unique aspects of week 18. Like if you build a roster with all guys who are in like the Chase Brown, Jaleel McLaughlin mode, like you're probably not going to do well. Like there's too much uncertainty there. But if you're only playing the guys who like are in certain spots that, you know, I'll only play guys on teams that I know exactly what they're going to do. You're going to end up with like a team very similar to everybody else. It's going to be very hard for you to separate. You've got to have that balance there. You know, so if you wanted to play like the Jordan Mason, Pierre Strong, like the more popular running back spots, well then your core stack, your quarterback, receiver, opponent, you probably are going to need to go somewhere else other than like the most obvious, like high certainty, high price spot of Buffalo, Miami. So, just balancing that, I think is the most critical part of this week.
Definitely agreed in MME for sure. I mean, you're going to have different, in a field of 349, I would definitely agree at least one or two spots you're going to have to be, different and maybe mirror the prices of the popular guys with somebody who's just as capable of reaching that median or ceiling at the same price, but it's not as owned. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. We will see what FanDuel graces us with for the wild card round, and look at doing potentially a show for that week. Hopefully there's like a decent sized contest that has all 6 games, because I kind of prefer that over like the 3-game slates. It's hard to get to be unique without feeling like you're doing stupid stuff on those really short slates sometimes, especially with like when you get into the bigger contests. I'll still play, but ideally they have a 6-game slate with a decent contest that we can build for. So, thank you again. Best of luck this weekend. Let's ring in the new year the right way.
Good luck, everyone. Let's do it.
Yep. See you next week. 1 week season fam. Like and subscribe. Check us out. We'll see you on Discord. We'll see you on Twitter. We will see you at the top of the leaderboards.
1 week season.